single individual knows the man behind the mask worn at the party. I noticed that a lot of the times when you have, especially if you are the most successful person in your network, uh, you did a good job of building the kind of network where you met people by benefiting them, but you met the wrong people by benefiting them, and now those people lean on you for like an upside down period, lean on you for assistance. So your phone rings all the time, where they might start the conversation with, "Hey, how you been?" But the conversation doesn't end until they ask you for some money or they ask you for some kind of help. They start the conversation on a high note. It's been a while since we've talked. How's life going with you? But then when you redirect the conversation back to how's life going with them, they have this sob story of what they've got going on that requires your involvement. You never have a person really hit you up and be like, "Bro, is there something I can do for you?" Right? Can I, you know, aid you in any kind of way? It's been a while since I've checked up on you. Is there something you need me to carry a weight for you or something to that effect? We don't have that as men. You know, many find themselves drowning in silence because we got to man up. We've got to figure this out. We very rarely ask for advice, and we typically, if we do ask for advice, it's usually from a mentor, someone further distanced from us than our best friends, because clearly we cannot present ourselves as failures to our inner circle. But our inner circle are the ones that are supposed to know us the best. Now, one of the worst things is that when your inner circle does know your failures, they lose respect for you as a man. Then they treat you different as a man. Then any of the failures in your life that you don't want the general public to be paying attention to, your friends will likely leverage that in order to compel you to allow them to get away with things that you wouldn't allow the average person to get away with. We It's what, social blackmail, and it's not a crime. It's just things that are just, you're embarrassed about it. You just don't want this individual to think differently about you, so you don't want your homie to say anything about it. So they will leverage their silence to extort from you effort in situations you otherwise would not have been involved in as well. So to prevent that from happening, we try our best not to tell too many of our deepest, darkest secrets to some of our closest friends, which also puts us in a situation where we're stuck in a sea of shallow relationships that are built on shifting sands of fun and favors. And this is not a rare experience. This modern paradox of being constantly connected but deeply alone is a quiet epidemic. And recent Gallup data showed that about a quarter of young men report feeling lonely a lot of the time. But the path to a real answer doesn't come from those new apps or social strategies, but from looking back. Take this back 2,000 years. The answer isn't in new techniques, but in a timeless philosophy. It wasn't until people turned to the wisdom of a long dead Greek philosopher that they could finally learn how to truly man up their connections and build friendships that were real, resilient, and unbreakable. And it has nothing to do with what one does for them, and everything to do with who one is becoming. Many people live in a world of ghosts, not the supernatural kind, the social kind. The friend who disappears when the party is over, the contact who goes silent when they don't need a favor anymore, the endless scroll of faces that feel familiar, but who are not truly known, individuals that do not truly know you. Think about this for a second. I want you guys to take a moment. You go into your phones, picture in picture, because I mean you can watch me and do this at the same time. Go into your phone. Go into your contact list, the contact list, not the text message list. And then in that contact list, special shout out to Tiny Lion. Oh, he's being silly. Let's not be silly, Tiny. Go into your contact list, and you're going to have your favorites. And I know why you have your favorites. Your favorites are not people that you actually favorite. Your favorites are the people that you want to be able to reach out to quicker. So since your contact list is usually in alphabetical order, the first handful of favorited or starred contacts are people that you would have recently contacted. So let's understand that first. Then after that, in alphabetical order from A to Z, you have every contact that you've ever put into your phone. If you scroll through your contact list, don't just ask yourself, do I remember who this person or contact is? Ask yourself, when's the last time I used this number to contact that person or that contact? And you're going to find out that some of those contacts you have not reached out to in the last year. You're going to find out that some of them you haven't reached out to in the last 5 or 10 years. You're going to find out that some of them you've never used that number. The contact was in your contacts with your very first phone in 2016, and it's just or in 2006. It's from way back in the day when you first started using emails to lock in your account for your phone, and it's just rolled over the contact with every phone that you've upgraded to. But you've got contacts from 20 years ago that you don't even remember who that person is, and you haven't talked to them in the last 20 years. It's too much trouble for you to purge your phone, which prevents you from being able to minimize your contact list to just important contacts. He says, I really don't want to contact anyone, though. People are leeches on my energy. Well, you know, that's what we're talking about today, how to fix that. The best bet for you to change your dynamic is to curate your contacts and curate your network from being individuals that just leech off of you to the type of individuals that actually benefit you. You're not looking for ride or die friends that'll get into trouble with you. You're looking for the kind of friends that are actually going to aid you in your ability to be successful. And it's not individuals where you're going to call when you need money. It's not going to be individuals that uh, uh, you only like call when you need a second set of hands to lift something. It's the type of individual that you can contact when you have an idea and you want to run that idea by them. Like, hey man, I was thinking about starting up this app. What do you think? Hey man, I was thinking about writing this book. What do you think? Have you read the first couple chapters? Tell me what you think. Hey man, I was thinking about making this movie. What do you think? I was thinking about putting up this business. What's your thoughts on that? People that you can brainstorm the future with. They don't necessarily have to be people. It's like, bro, I need a couple $100 as an investor, or hey man, I need somebody to help me move. That's not the same thing. You know, Social media has created a powerful illusion of community, a false intimacy that can leave a person feeling emptier than before. There's been a collective mistake. The breadth of a network has been confused for the depth of the connection. Hundreds, even thousands of contacts have been collected, but the skill of building a single true brother in arms has been completely forgotten in today's time. Many have become masters of the surface level exchange. I know who you are, or I enjoyed our conversation. Let's exchange contacts. That's it. And that's where it stops. You know, oh, she was hot. Let me get her number. And that's it. That's where it stops. She doesn't follow up with you. And if you don't follow up with her, it's not going to be anything. But if you followed up with her and she wasn't interested past the contact, the communication, she's going to ghost you. So you still have her contact, but you're never going to use it because she doesn't want to talk to you. Interesting, right? The novices in the art of genuine human connection do not understand this. And this isn't just a feeling, it's a documented reality. For decades, studies have shown that men's circle of closest friends, confidants, have been shrinking. 2021 report from a survey center on American life revealed a startling statistic of 15% of men that reported having no close friends at all. We just had Tiny come in and say the same thing. A five-fold increase since 1990. This isn't about being an introvert or an extrovert. This is about a quality of our life. Because the truth that has been forgotten, the truth the ancients knew in their bones, is that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. And far too many understanding the quality is actually poor at this time. There is a starvation for real nourishment in the world of digital candy. So, how is this fixed? How does one go from 100 ghosts to one true brother? The answer lies in the fundamental shift in perspective, a shift from collecting to cultivation, a shift from doing to being. The world today sells a very specific brand from friendship that we never seen before back in the day before the internet. You got to understand right now, friendship is transactional, it's convenient, and it's incredibly shallow. People are taught to network, not to connect. They are encouraged to build a following, not a fellowship. They add people on LinkedIn, follow them on Instagram, and exchange pleasantries at social gatherings. They call these people friends. If you don't know their social security number, they're not your friend. They're an acquaintance. But what are these relationships really built on? Think about it. For many, their connections fall into two simple and ultimately hollow categories. First, there are the favor friends. And these are the colleagues from work, the contacts from an industry, the people one could call on for a professional advantage. The interactions are subtle, unspoken ledgers of give and take. Help with this project in exchange for an introduction to that person. Cover my shift and get yourself some overtime. I'll cover your shift the next time you need a day off. It is useful. It is efficient. It helps one climb the ladder. But it is completely devoid of any real human warmth. It's a business arrangement disguised as friendship. The moment the utility dries up, and so it will, and as soon as it dries up, the connection is also going to be gone. It's a relationship out of convenience. There's no bond, only a bargain. That you help me, and in return, I'll help you. Outside of the business world, this transactional relationship is also done amongst friends where I can't afford to pay a bill. Let me borrow some money from you so I can catch this bill. You can't afford to pay for something. You're going to borrow some money from me to pay for something. Our relationship is going to be a financial give and take. We're passing money back and forth between one another because neither one of us makes enough money to stand on our own 2 feet. The relationship is out of convenience. The relationship gets stronger or more deeper the more quantities of money that is exchanged between the two of us, because it might start off being $50. It might be a meal, then it'll be a tank of gas, then it'll be a utility bill, then it'll be the rent, then it'll be a mortgage, then it'll be co-signing on a car. The demand continues to get larger the more you guys maintain a relationship, but it's still a transactional relationship. The day that the one person becomes financially stable and no longer needs to ask, the other person becomes a burden. The day that the one person never recovers from the last ask, they're not able to continue to ask because they haven't been able to give back. In any dynamic, when it becomes inconvenient, the relationship starts to dwindle away. The second one, far more numerous, are the fun friends. We talk about the fun friends on a regular basis, and the fun friends are the ones that we tell our kids don't get involved with. The ones that are only there for a good time, the ones that will ride with you but won't put gas in your car, and the ones that might put gas in your car but they won't pay for the maintenance. So yeah, they give you $10 to take them across town, but will they help you fix your transmission? The fun friends. These are the weekend crew, the people who watch the game with you, the ones who hit the bars with you. Their bonds are activities. Their foundation is going to be pleasure. They share laughter. They share experiences. They share good times, but they never share their struggles. Times are tough. I don't want to talk about it. They never share their true selves. Worried about something? Don't worry about it. I'll get over it. The relationship is conditional on the fun continuing. And when the fun starts to dwindle away, again, this is going to cause a relationship. They're gonna put distance between them and their friends when things start getting too tough. So if someone is going through a hard time, if they can't make out what's going on, if they are the downer in the group, they're going to end up being ostracized by the group. So if you're going through breakup, if you're going through termination on your job, and you're struggling emotionally, everybody else wants to have a good time. You're a downer, you're a buzzkill. They'll leave you and go to the club without you. They'll leave you and they'll go do the activities without you, right? And sometimes, because you don't want to tell people when you've messed up, you got with a chick that everybody told you not to get with, you guys are on the bad terms, you're breaking up, you don't want to tell your group that you broke up with the girl, or the girl broke up with you. Even worse, God forbid, she broke up with you and took more money out of your pocket than when you wasted on the first date. You're embarrassed. You don't want to tell your squad that you made a huge mistake that they tried to stop you from getting into. Again, the relationships aren't there. This is the great illusion of modern connections. People are surrounded, yet fundamentally disconnected. Social media has poured gasoline on the fire, tricking people into feeling closer than ever while actually pushing them apart. It's made friendship lazy. Instead of checking in on a friend, people just check their feed. You don't just call a person up and be like, hey, how's your week been going? You actually see what they've posted recently. And for the young folks that are in their early teens, early 20s, those individuals post everything about their life. So you can honestly see 70% of the things they want people to see by looking at their feed. When they're looking for sympathy, they'll post up something sad. When they're looking for praise, they'll post up something happy. When they're looking for compliments, they'll post up something that will get them compliments. When they're looking for negative support, they'll post up a scenario that will make them look like the victim, even when they caused the problem, so that everybody can back them up as to how they should not have gone through what they were going through. They can create a narrative that gives them a false sense of satisfaction from their network, because it is specifically curated to generate that response. But the things you don't want people to know, that's the other 20 to 30% that you don't post online. That's the things that only end up online when someone else involved in a situation posts your mistakes. This is over reliance on digital interactions that can lead to superficial relationships and diminished sense of real belonging. The result is profound loneliness that gnaws at a person even when they're in a crowded room. It's the feeling of being a performer in one's own life, constantly wearing a mask, terrified that if the true, unvarnished self was shown, the entire flimsy structure of the social world would collapse. One is left with a calendar full of plans and a soul full of emptiness. And this isn't a personal failing, it is a systemic problem, a broken model for connection that has been handed down. People have been told to value quantity over quality, utility over virtue, and pleasure over personal growth. Social lives have been built on foundations of sand, and it's no wonder so many feel unstable. To live this way is to chase the next social high, adding more and more people to a network only to wonder why the feeling of isolation grows stronger with each new name. It's like running a marathon in the wrong direction. The breaking point comes when the realization of that, if life took a serious downturn, a lost job, health crisis, or a drop in social status, 99% of so called friends would vanish. Because the connection was never about the person, it was about what that person offered. That realization is terrifying, but it is also the beginning of salvation. It forces a search for a better way, a more durable model for building a connected life. And that is what leads to Aristotle. In depths of this modern frustration is bizarre forms of popular loneliness. The answers are not in self help books with 7 easy steps, but in the foundational texts of Western thought and in the pages of Aristotle's uh, Nicomanche, the Nicomachean Ethics. It was written over 2,300 years ago. This is a diagnosis of the problem, so precise that it feels as if it were written last week. Aristotle, turns out, was deeply concerned with the concept of friendship, which he called philia. He dedicated 2 entire books of his masterwork on ethics to this particular point, which reveals that he saw this as absolutely essential for a good life. For him, a life without friends wasn't truly a life at all, no matter what else a person had. But here's the genius of his philosophy. Aristotle didn't say just go make friends. He deconstructed it and he saw the same patterns visible in modern life. And he gave these patterns formal structure. His identification of 3 distinct types of friendship is like a blueprint to the social world, one that many have been fumbling through blindfolded. The first 2 types are hauntingly familiar. First, there is the friendship of utility. This is a relationship where 2 people are connected, not because they care for one another, but because they are useful to each other. They get some benefit from the association. This is an entirely professional network. The favor friends. We talked about that earlier. Aristotle noted it as these relationships are common among older people who are often seeking adventure over pleasure. And they're trying to take advantage of that. But in our modern hustle culture, it's common amongst everyone. It's the person one networks with, the colleague one is friendly with, to make a project go smoother. The affection isn't for the person themselves, but for the advantage that that person can provide. And because of this, Aristotle warns that these friendships are fragile and easily dissolved. The moment the utility disappears, so does the reason for the friendship. Second, there is the friendship of pleasure. This is the relationship built on shared fun, enjoyment, and good times. This is the domain of the young. Aristotle said, because their lives are guided by emotions and the pursuit of pleasure over advantage. This is going to be the weekend crew, the party friends, people drawn to each other's wit, good looks, or simply the fun that they can have in their company. That person that pays for everybody's drinks at the bar, of course you're going. Even if you're driving, you're not paying for cover, you're not paying for the bottomless tap, of course you're going. Like a friendship of utility, the affection here isn't for the other character, but for the pleasure that they bring. And this too makes the friendship incredibly unstable. When interests change, when someone moves, when life gets serious, the parties stop, the bonds dissolve. As soon as the people are no longer pleasant to one another, the friendship ends. This happens when you're drinking buddies. You decide to quit drinking. You no longer have buddies. You're smoking buddies. When you decide to quit smoking, whether it's cigarettes, whether it's weed, whether it's meth, whenever you decide to quit smoking, your smoking buddies are no longer your friends. If you decide that whatever recreational drug use that you used to do, that you're no longer going to do that anymore, the people who normally does that recreational drug, you're going to not hang out with them anymore, specifically because you don't do that anymore. These aren't the type of friends that, even though you're living a straight edge life now, you can still hang out with them and talk about the good old days, hang out about the here and now, plan for the future. These are individuals where the only time they come together is to do the things that you no longer do, which means you got to get new friends. And this is why a person can have a best night ever with a group and feel utterly alone with them the next morning. Same group of people. You can go out and have a where's my car moment. You can go out and have a hangover two in Bangkok moment with a bunch of people that you barely know their first name. A lot of times you might be on last name basis. You don't even know their first name. Y'all just went because it was fun. You might have went out thinking that you were going to just go to the bar for a couple drinks, meet a bunch of strangers at the bar, and then tailgate with them to every other adventure for the rest of the night. Wake up in the morning not knowing where you are and how you're going to get back to your house because you just went with the flow and had a best night ever event, and still not have a connection with the people that you did it with. The pleasure was the glue, and it's a weak adhesive. Reading this framework is a gut punch for many. Their entire social lives, all those hundreds of people, fit neatly into these first two boxes. They have a portfolio of utility, friends, and a roster of pleasure friends. So both utility friends and pleasure friends. And Aristotle, for 2 millennia away, was pointing out that these are the lowest, most temporary forms of connection that anyone can have. And they aren't bad, but they are incomplete. They are the foundation of dust. But then he describes the third type, the one that changes everything. There is a friendship of the good or virtue type of friendship. This is the highest, truest, and most enduring form of friendship. It's a bond that forms between two people who are, in Aristotle's words, good and alike in virtue. Now, virtue can sound intimidating. as if it requires being a flawless saint. But that's not what Aristotle meant. A friendship of virtue is a bond between two people who admire each other's characters. They're honestly looking at courage, the honesty as well, and compassion, and wish good for the other person for that person's own sake, not for their own personal benefit. In this friendship, the bond isn't based on what one can get, rather, it is a favor or a good time. They're not looking for that. The bond is based on who the other person is. They are loved for their character. And because character is an enduring quality, this friendship is built to last. This type of friendship naturally includes the other two friends of virtue that find pleasure in each other's company and are, of course, useful to one another, but those are bonuses, not the basis of the relationship. The foundation is mutual respect for each other's character and a shared commitment to living a good life. This is the friendship where one can be their true self, warts and all, because the other person is invested in their growth, not their performance. This is the friend who will call someone out when they're wrong, not to judge them, but because they care about their character. This is the friend who will celebrate victories and sit through defeats because their connection isn't conditional on success. This is the unbreakable bonds. It's rare. Aristotle says because good people are rare and it takes time and effort to build, a person can't have dozens of these kinds of friends. They might only have one or two in their entire life, but these are the connections that give life meaning. Likely, too, you should have a right hand and left hand person that you can put the weight of the world on, and then the other three people in your closest network of five are the three people that hold a close candle to the two that you can keep dearly to you. So these are going to be the relationships that make one person a better person. Many realize that they don't have a single one. Their entire strategy has been wrong. They have been focused on doing favors, doing fun activities. The path to real connection, the path to manning up friendships is to focus on being, on who a person is, and on the character of the people they let into their life. The solution isn't to find more people to do things with. The solution is to become the kind of man who can attract and sustain a friendship of virtue. This is the beginning of the real work. Not too many people think about. So, recognizing the problem is the diagnosis. Discovering Aristotle's framework is the map. But a map doesn't get you out of the woods. One has to walk the path. So the real question becomes, how does a person actually build these friendships, these good friendships? If they're based on character, where does one even start? The answer is found in a powerful blend of ancient philosophy, not just from Aristotle, but from his philosophical cousins, the Stoics. This requires a radical redefinition of what it means to man up. Because typically, when we say in modern days to man up, we actually are really just telling each other not to be vulnerable. It's not about puffing out one's chest or suppressing emotions. It is about taking radical responsibility for one's own character because the outer world, including relationships, is a direct reflection of it. Here's the practical philosophical toolkit for transforming a social life. The first step you're going to have to do is redefine manning up as inner alignment. So we're going to address first the toxic modern ideas of manning up that must be abandoned. Because it's not about being tough guy or emotionally conscripted. It's a boy's uh, caricature of strength. The philosophical definition of manning up is about inner alignment, making sure one's actions lines up with one's deepest values like honesty, loyalty, courage, and discipline. This is going to be the core idea in Stoicism. Philosophers make Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, Epictetus taught that we must understand what we can and cannot control. A person can't control what other people think or do. They can only control their own mind and their judgments, their responses, and their character. So, what does this have to do with friendship? Everything. And as you guys pop in on this part, I want to make sure that you guys hit those reaction buttons and hit the like button on the way through. Pay attention. When self-worth is tied to things one can't control, like social media likes or party invites, a person becomes needy. They seek validation. And neediness is a repellent. No one knew that. When the focus shifts inward to what can be controlled, integrity, reliability, one's own conduct, something incredible happens. A person stops needing others to like them and starts giving them reasons to respect them. So you're giving other people reasons to respect you. Confidence is no longer rooted in internal or external approval. You're not trying to get other people to build your confidence. It is the internal knowledge that one is acting on their own principles. They become a source of stability, not a vortex of need. Practically, this means making a conscious choice. Instead of ghosting someone because it's easy, an honest conversation is had because integrity is valued. Instead of gossiping about a friend, loyalty is chosen. Each of these small choices builds character. One doesn't find friends of virtue, one becomes a friend of virtue. And like attracts like. Virtuous behavior attracts virtuous behavior. Special shout out to Gothic Stage. Stoicism is great, but IMO, the philosophy of masculinity, isn't going anywhere productive. It all goes down the same reductionist funnel, and it's like trickle down philosophy, but I could be wrong. Well, the the social expectation of masculinity in modern times is revolving around a masculine man being considered masculine for the fundamental reasons of being utility. Because a man providing for somebody is utility, and the man protecting somebody is utility. A masculine man is identified as a guy who gets all the girls, and a guy who gets all the girls is a guy who is interacting with girls for sexual interactions, which is also utility. Masculinity is utility. A man is not considered a masculine man because people value him as a man. He's not considered a masculine man because people seek mentorship from that man. They don't value his character, and that makes him a man. They don't value his views or his integrity or anything that is the core identity of that man to consider that man masculine. A masculine man is a man that must make money and build resources to provide for his family or his network. That is a masculine man. And that man physically puts himself on the line to protect his family or his network. An alpha man fights for control, fights for dominance, even if he has to fight his woman to get control and get dominance so that his woman can respect him, so that his kids can respect him. A Sigma man doesn't fight, he negotiates it, but he's still in the position of being utility. So, in a way, I can agree with you that masculinity, which is not what we're talking about right now, masculinity goes down a redundant funnel because it is something that has never been changed. Men have to ascribe to one role and one role only. Women can be masculine when it benefits them. They can be in charge. They can be the alpha boss. They can use their sexuality as a manipulative tool to force men to submit. And then when women do not want responsibility, they can switch over to the demand of being feminine, where they're expecting the man to do the things that the woman doesn't want to do, not the things that she can't do, the things that she doesn't want to do. And that's part of being feminine, the fluidity. No, the truth is that society has broken down so much that in order for men to get laid, they allow women to do whatever women want to do so that the man can get laid. The woman will take over the man's house, change his whole house so that she can feel comfortable in his house, so that then it's now her house and he's a guest in his own house where whatever she says goes so that he can get laid. Fundamentally, masculinity is submitting to the ability to get laid, which isn't true, but that's what it's become. The dynamic of that is structurally conflictual because women do not respect men that are not dominant. So if she can conquer him, she can't respect him. If she can't conquer him, they will have a conflictual relationship because she wants to be in charge, but she also wants to be with the man that is in charge. She can't be in charge and have someone else in charge at the same time. There's no such thing as co-leadership in a relationship. You have a democracy, but if there's a 50-50 vote, who has the final say? If the man doesn't have the final say from the feminist perspective, the man isn't in charge. If the woman doesn't have the final say from the feminist perspective, he's not a man. He's a simp. If no means do whatever you want, then the man doesn't have a say. So, special shout out to Gaius. I think that that was a good understanding. It's You're not really wrong about it with masculinity, but stoicism is not just about masculinity, but it does focus on your emotional discipline and your psychological well-being. Because while today I'm not even touching masculinity in today's topic about changing how you interact with your inner network as a man, because if we're all men, we're supposed to be on some levels masculine men. I'm talking about the difference between the people that only are with you because they benefit, like MC Hammer's background crew, or the people that are with you because they value you. Because the people that are with you because they benefit from you are friends of utility, like I've said before, but those friends of utility will stop coming when they can no longer benefit from you. The people that are with you because they're afraid of you, like P. Diddy's crew, they're only going to be there until they no longer fear you. So if you have bribery as control over your friends, or you have intimidation as control over your friends, you do not have genuine loyalty. And since you do not have genuine loyalty, as soon as rebellion occurs because they're tired of your shit, or as soon as someone else is more beneficial than you are, those people that you considered lifelong friends will abandon you. And that's what I was talking about. Then I guess I'm just wondering where the old healthy spiritual masculinity is. Rare red pill Christians and black pill nihilists take too much of the overall internet uh, discourse on the topic. I definitely agree with you on that. And this is probably the only podcast. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe. This is the only podcast that isn't a red pill, blue pill, black pill podcast. I come from uniformity, but I come from first person accountability and fixing the things that you don't like in your life by changing the way you do you and the way you allow things happening around you, instead of blaming women because the men don't want to stand up for themselves, and as blaming men for the women not getting what women want from men. I agree with you that the internet is overwhelmed with these red pill and black pill podcasts, but this is about self improvement and self development. Who gives two shits about the people around you? If those people don't rock the way you rock, you're supposed to be able to dismiss them with confidence and understand that that person doesn't fit your mold, or those people don't fit your mold, who you want to be at in life, because you are defined by the five people you spend the most time with. So if you hang out with people that ain't shit, you are going to be included in that group. If you hang out with a bunch of convicts, you're identified as a convict. So, this is the type of dynamic where I agree with you. The internet is overwhelmed with it, and I completely understand that it is hard to find a healthy spiritual masculinity. But in all honesty, in order for you to find a true, he said, never know what you'll get until you start to listen. And that's one of the reasons why I give people the opportunity to linger on the podcast long enough to find out that I'm actually going to tell you something that nobody else talks about. You're going to be like, oh shit. You're going to learn something today, because it's all about learning for yourself. So the true to life authentic masculinity from back in the day, from way back in the day, is building yourself up, self-esteem, self-worth, self-value, your virtue of integrity. Almost like you see on the animes and stuff, like a real man doesn't fight an unarmed man, or I don't draw swords on men without swords, and all of the other, you know what I mean? The honor in battle. You actually have honor in socialization. You know, a masculine man doesn't have to get a girl drunk to sleep with her. If she wasn't drunk when you slept with her, you wouldn't have to worry about that rape charge. You know what I mean? You're the honor in being able to get a girl to agree sober is not the way men operate in modern times. That's why bars make money off of women at the bar, and men buy drinks at the bar until the woman is willing to say yes. But the problem that you have is that yes is not a sober yes. Even if it's a conscious yes, it's not a sober yes. And if in the event that her sober bitterness sinks in, that yes can turn into statutory. And now in Louisiana, you can get your nuts cut off of a false charge. So the honor in being able to get a girl to hover in your presence because she values and respects you as a person, not because you're paying for her presence. That's something that men don't do, but that's masculine back in the day, that women just wanted to be in your presence, not because you were paying them to be in your presence. If I'm taking a trip, that's I'm taking a trip. But if I'm only taking this trip because I want you to go with me, I'm bribing you. And those masculine levels of honor and ethics are not in 2025 society, 2026 society. It ain't tricking if you got it mentality, meaning if I can take my bill money and I can pay this hoe to go somewhere with me, then it ain't tricking. But truth be told, if she would not have gone with you if you weren't paying, then she didn't want to go with you. She wanted to go for free, a relationship of utility. Guys who hang out with girls that are broke, that are financially strapped, and those guys that have a savior complex that start paying her bills because she's attractive, because he likes her, and then he starts sleeping with her. And now, because he is a source of income for her financial needs, he's a regular sex partner. That turns into a relationship of utility, and that relationship of utility only lasts until she finds another man that's willing to spend more money on her. She didn't want the man that she's in the relationship with, which is why these days they call it situationships. She is with that man because of the standard of living that she has because of that man, which means that she's in a relationship of utility. Sometimes children are born out of these relationships, and now we're just together for the sake of the kids. It is not because she doesn't want to go anywhere. It's because she feels obligated to stay, so because her understanding of a healthy family is the child living with both biological parents, when in fact a healthy family is the parents behaving correctly in front of the child, even if they live in separate houses. So the fact is that it is still an 18-year relationship of utility, because we're only together for the sake of the kids. We were only together for the sake of the bills, and now we're only together for the sake of the kids. Once the kids go off to college, what happens? For some reason, mom and dad's getting a divorce now. They've been lingering on this for 15 years. We just never thought it would happen. Why? Because we did not get together off of genuine connection. We got together based on utility, right? Females got 5, 10, 20 guys in their contact list that wants to smash. Some guys that want to smash again. They're male best friends. Women believe that this is okay. But if there was absolutely no opportunity for these dudes to smash, those dudes would likely move on. Plain and simple. So the convenience of the emotional connection is what she's going to get, and the hope of a physical connection is what he's going to stay for. And whether it's a couple of months or a few decades, eventually he gets to smash. And that's what they're lingering for in the friend zone. It is a relationship of utility. Soon as that guy finds an emotional connection that is stronger than the one that he has now, soon as that guy finds a physical connection that is more available than the one that he's waiting for, he will no longer wait for that chick. And the older she gets, the smaller her network gets. The smaller the quantity of group of dudes that is willing to wait for her. Right? So yeah, we're here, we're talking about individual honor and ethics, and personal expectations. And then after you've held yourself to a higher standard, you must hold your network to that same standard. And one of the hardest things to do is to realize that the last 20 years I've had shitty friends. When you tell yourself that, you now have to realize that some of these friends you're gonna have to let go, because you are supposed to prioritize. There's only 24 hours in a day, and 6 to 8 hours of that you're going to be asleep, right? Which leaves you with 18 hours, 16 hours of awake time. Out of that, you might spend 8 to 10 hours at work, which would leave you with 6 to 8 hours of not at work awake time every day, minus the 1 or 2 hours commute round trip, which then brings it down to 4 to 6 hours of awake time every day. And the people that you give that time to need to be people of value, not people on that bullshit, not people that are emotionally needy, psychologically draining, not people that are financially draining, not Captain Save a Hole scenarios where you got to take your time off and go bail your buddy out of jail again. You got to go pick up somebody out of a bar fight again. You got to go help them with their crazy ex again. You need the individuals that they're getting their shit together. You're getting your shit together. Y'all are building yourselves up for a future that y'all are going to benefit from. So you're not looking for friends of convenience. I'm not saying that you're not going to have them. I'm going to say that you're not going to invest in them. FX Trader says, so when the women turn 30, 35, they all of a sudden want to get married to almost anybody. Well, yeah, because after they 35, getting on close to 40 years old, they don't have the attraction that they used to have. Men are not chasing them as much as they used to chase them. The women already have the number of children that they're willing to have voluntarily. And if they already have children, less men are talking to them if they're single moms. So now they're trying to find that connection. All the 25-year-olds are getting all the attention. The women are going to take whatever's left over. And at that point, their unrealistic expectations goes down by a lot because the utility is not there anymore because the benefit that the men have of a young, tight female is not there. She's not young, she's not tight. The utility isn't there. The value that men have in a woman isn't there in a woman that's over the age of 30. And as much as women are not going to like me saying that, that's the true dynamic of it. A woman that's 35, 40 years old has almost no value because the men are going to be looking for a woman that is willing to cooperate, which means that while she knows what she wants, she's willing to do what he says. Women that are able to and willing to still give birth to children because men want to build legacies. More than 66% of men want to build a legacy. The women have to be financially responsible, you know. So if she is what people classify as a gold digger, which is a woman that's used to overspending because all the men that she hang out with gives her all the extra money they have just to keep her in their presence. She's used to overspending. She's not financially responsible because she's never sought after a financially responsible man. She sought after the entertainment from men, which was engagements of utility. So when those women know what they want, they know the lifestyle they want to have, especially if it's a lifestyle that was sustained by 20 different men at the same time. Those women want that lifestyle from one man, and they can only find that type of lifestyle from a type of man that makes over 100,000 a year, where that man is living on 30% of his income at 30,000 a year, so that the other 70,000 a year can be spent on her. That's the unrealistic expectation. And the problem with that is that those types of men are not always the type of men that will treat her the way she wants to be treated. The type of man that would treat her the way she wants to be treated is a type of man that makes 40,000 a year. So she has to choose between the money and the respect, the financial comfort and the emotional stability. You can't have both, unfortunately. On the rare occasion that you find that in a man, all qualities, is when that man used to have nothing and built himself up to something. But when he gets to that level, if he's smart, he has built standards that you now have to meet. And if she's 35, 40 years old and she knows what she wants, and he must meet her expectations, but he also must accept her for who she is, flaws and all. She's not willing to change for him, but she expects him to be exactly what she's looking for. That again is a relationship of utility because he doesn't benefit from this. And she's not there for him because she values him. She's there for him because she benefits from him. He says the women who are 35 plus could still use your financial plan though. Of course, a woman that's 35, 40 years old can live off of 30% of her income and invest the other 70%. She could live off of 50% of her income and invest the other 50% of her income. And at 35, if she starts the financial plans that I'm telling her, by 65, she can retire with $1 million. You know, and at 30, because and the reason why I say 65 is because women are wasteful. So she might need a 30-year plan. But if she started at 35, by the time she got to 55, 65 years old, she would have over $1 million. And she could do it by herself. She doesn't need a man to get there. But as soon as a woman has $500,000 in the bank, a lot of the women that started with no money in the bank or a large quantity of debt in the bank, By the time she gets to $500,000 in the bank, she trips around the world on a regular basis with her homegirls, which is relationships of utility, because she's paying for the Airbnb, she's paying for the flights for her broke friends, she's paying for the trips to Spain, Gonda, and everything else, where she is taking her friends out of utility, and she might be the star of her friendship network because she is paying for her friends to accompany her on the life that she built that they can't afford for themselves, right? Oh, I can't go because I need a babysitter. Don't worry, girl, I'll pay for your babysitter. So it's still a friendship of utility. Now, women can take this advice that I'm giving to the men and make themselves better individuals. But I'm doing this for the fellas. He said, my friend asked me what I would do if she was choking. And I told her I would pull back several inches. Well, Michael, if she was choking, that's on her. I understand the joke, but truth is, first and foremost, because people say, well, if I'm in a life-threatening situation, would you help me? Question of utility. Truth is, in a situation where if you need help, our relationship is based off of integrity, value, honor, ethics. I value you as a person, not as a financial benefit. If I value you as a person, then I'm going to try my best to preserve your existence. Now, if I can benefit from your existence, that's a plus, as I just finished mentioning about a half hour ago. But if our relationship is not based on a hero complex, like what was that series, Speed, um terminal velocity, that's what it was, terminal velocity, where the man was only with the woman because the plane was crashing and the vehicle had to go over a certain mileage or it'll blow up, and all of these other scenarios where they were always in life threatening situations. You can build a trauma bond with somebody, which is still a relationship of convenience, because as long as you are traumatized, this person is your emotional crutch. When you're no longer traumatized, that person holds no value. You can formulate a trauma bond with a woman who just lost her husband. As long as you wear the colognes that he used to wear, you can stay connected with this woman because she has emotional connection to the set, not to you. When the cologne runs out, so does your relationship. It is her ability to not have to grieve until later, which again is a relationship of convenience. So, a question about if you were in a life threatening situation, what would I do to benefit you, is a test question of utility. If you don't believe in me, that I will not put effort into making sure that you survive, then we don't have the type of relationship that we should have. I should not have to give you positive reinforcement to lead you to trust that in the midst of danger that I will act as the masculine man that I have been socially conditioned to be, to protect and provide. Because protecting and providing is not limited to the women. Protecting and providing is for the tribe, which also means that in even in the wilderness, the alpha male of the pack, male and female wolves, the leader of the pack will protect the weaker wolves. Doesn't matter if it's a male or a female. Gorillas, monkeys, baboons, lions, tigers, bears, doesn't matter. The leader of the pack protects the pack, both the males and the females. So the leader of the group is instinctually, utility of masculinity, going to protect the group and then going to provide for the group. Now, in modern economy, providing might not be food. Providing might be covering your tab. Providing might be covering your parking. Providing might be gas in your tank. Providing might be catching a bill you ran short on. Providing might be offering you a contact for a job, or recommending you for overtime, recommending you for promotion, putting you down on a project. Providing could be giving you the opportunity that you needed to succeed on your own. Co-signing on a car, co-signing on a house, uh, 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 adding you on as an authorized user on a line of credit that boosts your credit score. These are ways that in modern society the alpha can provide, or the sigma can provide. And then protecting is making sure that you don't fuck it up. Sometimes it's just good advice that the other person takes. Sometimes it's getting involved. Sometimes it's working out the scam. Sometimes it's reading a contract for you and pointing out the flaws, you know. But to the magnitude of, uh, if I valued you before I got involved, you should know that I'm gonna get involved. But you also should know that you value me as a person, and you don't want me as a person to compromise my own integrity, compromise my own values, or compromise my own virtue. So your decisions should not inconvenience my morals, since you know that I'm going to get involved. So if my ethics would look down on me getting into a bar fight, would you put yourself in a position for me to have to get you out of a bar fight? No. Why? Because you don't want me involved in that type of environment. So you won't even call me to get you out of that. Politician has a reputation, the virtue of his position as a politician. If you value him, you're not gonna have him in a hotel in some trafficking situation where all the girls in a hotel are under the age of 18. You're not gonna do it. You're not going to go there, and you're not going to have your homeboy go there because he's a politician. You don't want him getting into trouble. That'll mess up his career. If you value the other person, now the decisions that you make should not negatively impact the people that you value. uh, Trader says, where does this savior slash hero complex come from? Well, I've talked to you about this before. It comes from your childhood a lot of the times. Usually there's a situation where your people only value you when they need you, and that hero complex is developed from a lifetime of only receiving validation, external validation, from when you are utilized. So the hero complex and savior complex comes from the dynamic of people only praise you when you are helpful. And that can also be a trauma bond from when you were a kid, when your mom only valued you when you were useful. You was always not shit and gonna end up like your father until you started paying bills and bailing out mama's problems. You could be in that dynamic. You could have grown up in schools where school says you're gonna amount to your parents and be absolutely nothing until you start benefiting the school. Your friends don't acknowledge you until you start benefiting your friends. Savior complexes can develop from an internal need for external validation that can only be accomplished from acts of service. And the greater the acts of service, the greater the validation, and the greater the validation, the greater your ego is going to be. Which also means that if you become a firefighter and you save lives for a living, you can get a large quantity of external validation just by wearing the uniform. So you put your life on the line, not because you have to, but because you self identify as a savior. Because you could have done something else with your life. Make sure y'all like and subscribe as we come through here. Match those reaction buttons. Now, the second step, because we only got through one step in the last hour and a half. You want to master your inner world with stoic emotional discipline. A friendship of virtue requires emotional stability. It requires being a man who isn't a slave to every impulse and reaction. This is going to be where the philosophy of Stoicism provides an amazing operating system for the mind. The Stoics taught that it's not even that upsets us, not none of the events that upset us. It is our judgments about those events. So shit happens, and that's not what bothers us. It's how people judge us through those events. A friend doesn't text back, that is a neutral fact. The story one tells oneself, he's ignoring me. I did something wrong. That's the judgment. That judgment is what creates the pain and the anxiety of not getting that text back. He says, I see So it includes cops, firefighters, and the army uniform. Yeah, it does. The hero complex could be police officers that grew up in a neighborhood where they want to save people. They grew up in a neighborhood where they didn't have protection growing up, so they don't want other people to be afraid and feel unprotected, so they'll start being police officers. You got somebody whose family member died in a fire, and they felt helpless in that situation. They don't want to feel helpless anymore, so they start being a firefighter. You have people who grew up in injustice, and they don't like the fact that the law doesn't protect the weak, so they'll start being lawyers and judges. You have people who got into politics to change their economy, and then they got caught up in the lobbyist forms, and now they're crooked politicians. You have people that went into the army not just to get away from the chaos in their lifestyle, but because they wanted to make a difference and find a purpose in their life, so they joined the army, and now they kill people for a living. Yes, yes, it will include firefighters, armed forces, cops, teachers, lawyers, judges. Yes, yes. People who are financially unstable throughout their life could end up becoming an accountant because now they have control, not just of their own life, but of somebody else's money. Financial advisors. Yes. Hero complex. Any advisor, therapists, counselors. Why? Because I don't have to get my shit together. My identity is fixing your problems. I get self gratification from external validation from each client that gets advice from me. Therapists, counselors, life coaches. I fix your life, which validates me because your life is now fixed, right? So the the survivor hero complex can come from anywhere, and a lot of us can have that in us to some degree. If you're willing to give money away to a friend instead of loaning it to them with interest rates, then you have some level of a hero complex. And that would be probably 100% of the poor financial class. Everybody that doesn't make 100,000 a year, and the people, some of the people who do make over 100,000 a year, that would all fit that dynamic. If you're willing to give a guy sitting on the sidewalk $10 to get them something to eat, because if you were in that situation, you would want somebody to give you $10, a hero complex. While it can come from empathy and sympathy, doesn't change the fact that you're compelled to do for the sake of someone else, for the praise of that scenario. Because you don't give to somebody without telling somebody else, oh man, I gave $10 to a homeless guy the other day. You got to tell somebody. And why do you tell them? That's when the hero complex comes in. You want praise from someone else because earlier this week you helped somebody else. That's funny. I used to take a patient to see his therapist, and all of them seemed like cooks uh, themselves. Yeah, yeah. The therapist. So therapists see therapists for two reasons. One, because they've got their own problems and they're not solving their problems while they're focusing on yours. Two, they take in a lot of emotional baggage, which is called emotional transference. And by all the patients that they listen to, the emotional distress that they're put through by listening to other people's problems, they end up having to convey that to a therapist on their own. The more traumatic their clients are, the more a therapist needs therapy. So yeah, it's a chain reaction. There are some therapists that only treat other therapists because there's so many of them that need therapy. Yes, the, the majority of individuals are cooked in this society because we all started down the wrong path of misguidedness before we had the opportunity to get our shit straight. And that's one of the reasons why I cover these topics, so that we could pay attention to the true dynamic of how we can make things a little bit better for ourselves. Because the key is going to be to create a space between an event and the reaction, right? If we do this, we'll be able to pause, observe the initial judgment that we're making, not that society is making, and then consciously question it. Here's a practical drill: the fact versus story drill. Identifying the trigger, a rush of negative emotions that is felt: anger, jealousy, anxiety. And we can do this in a lot of ways because actually, anger is sadness expressed outward, and depression is sadness expressed inward. Men are not allowed to be sad because that makes men seem weak. We can't express vulnerability, but we can experience and express anger and rage, right? Jealousy, insecurity, vulnerability, also coupled with rage, can be expressed by a man. Anxiety, which is fear. Nervousness, take a shot, right? Get over it, man up, right? These emotions are ones that actually are impacting our ability to make sound decisions. You want to be able to state the bare facts of your situation. What actually happened, stripped of all of the interpretations. For example, my friend posts photos from a hangout that I wasn't invited to. That's what was done. Identifying the story, you decide what is the narrative that was immediately created. In this example, they're leaving me out. It's not the case. Your ass just wasn't invited. Your observation is going to be they don't value me anymore. That's not the case. You just wasn't invited. You didn't go. They probably thought that you were too busy, you were tired, and that would inconvenience you, so they didn't ask you to go. It wasn't that they didn't value you as a person. It could be the other way around. They could have had high value for you, and they just didn't ask you to go because they didn't want to inconvenience you. If you challenge the story, this is going to be uh, uh, the way that you ask yourself, is that 100% true? Are there other possible explanations that could have answered this? For example, maybe it was a last minute event that the person went to that they didn't have time to talk to you because you were at work when they got invited. Maybe it was a specific group that you're not a part of. Maybe they thought that you were too busy, like I said before. When you choose a virtuous response, instead of lashing out based on an unverified story, a response aligned with values is going to end up being chosen. It can be to let it go, or the friend can be approached later from a place of calm curiosity, not an accusation. Like, hey, I saw you guys got together, looked like fun. I've been feeling a bit disconnected lately, would love to catch up soon. This isn't an emotional suppression, it's an emotional regulation. A person is examining the root cause of their own feelings, which is the judgment, and choosing not to be ruled by that internal feeling, right? A man who can do this is a source of calm and strength, and he doesn't create drama. He is a safe harbor for his friends, someone that they can bring their own struggles to without fear of an impulsive reaction. Uh, Trader says, I learned to take a few deep breaths and count to 10 before reacting to stressful situations. It works. It does work. One of the things that I have learned in a lot of the times that over probably the past 25 years is another thing that helps in your communication is talking in the third person about the situation, where you take yourself physically out of the situation. Only talk about the facts that occurred. It's not about you. It's not about me. This is what happened, and this is what we experienced, and what we are going to do to accomplish that. So, in that scenario, we're on the same side of the table looking at the same problem. We're not across from one another blaming each other for the problem. We're on the same side of the table looking at the problem across the table. So, say, for example, if the party happened, I wasn't invited. I wouldn't hit my friend up and be like, hey, man, you didn't invite me to that party. You know, it would probably be to the magnitude that we don't connect as often as I believe that we should. And as a result, an activity or event that I might have wanted to be involved in occurred without my knowledge. I'm not blaming you for nothing. My recommendation is maybe we should touch base more often during the week to make sure that I'm included in a lot of these activities that I'm missing out on. Or if it's because I'm not free and my buddy wants me to go, but I never make it, my buddy could do the same thing and, request that I take a specific day off since this is the day that these events usually happen. If y'all know about Latin night on Thursdays in most most of the cities where I'm at, if we're gonna go out on Latin night and go dance with all the Spanish girls, I'm gonna take Thursdays off. Why? So that I'm available for my buddy to say, hey, can you make it to X, Y, and Z? Likewise, we have to recognize that in situations that are beyond everyone's control, that you can't hold other people responsible for the outcome of the situation, especially if you weren't available to impact the situation. So, what if a massive block party occurs that you weren't invited to? A lot of people are going to feel bad about that. Me personally, I'm not going to give a fuck because I'm tired. I'm old. I wouldn't have done nothing but had two drinks and took my ass home anyway. So probably would have been there 20 minutes out of the night anyway. You know, uh, the thought is that I wasn't invited. I don't care. What are you doing during the day so that I don't have to be out there at night getting caught up in a house party for a house that didn't belong to the host of the party, where we're being shut down by law enforcement, potentially getting arrested and having our cars towed for a block party in the middle of the night, disturbing the peace. I don't need to be in all that conflict. I actually would probably do better having a one-on-one with my buddy after the party. You know, I find out that they're at the party that I wasn't invited to. I might be like, hey, after y'all finish at that party, do you want to meet up at one of the restaurants that are open 24 hours and we can have some breakfast, help you sober up after your night out on the town? I'm not going to take offense that I wasn't invited at all. If I really wanted to go out, I would connect with you and invite myself. you know, set something up with the people, not get offended by the fact that I wasn't included. But yes, if you're in stressful situations where the situation is becoming stressful outside of your control, several deep breaths does help. Thinking about what you're going to say before you say it does help. If you know that future conflict is coming, you have to have a tough meeting with somebody. Practicing how you're going to respond to potential questions allows you to be better prepared for most things that would happen. And I know that we're negative Nancy's, believe it or not. No matter how optimistic we pretend to be around our friends, internally we are the most pessimistic people in the world. So we will always keep our negative thoughts to ourselves. But when you're thinking about the worst way this conversation could go, you want to be able to prepare yourself for the best responses for the worst questions. Then, if it ends up being better than you thought, you were prepared for something way worse than this, and you have prepared an appropriate and healthy way to respond that prevents you from devaluing yourself in this conversation, which puts you in a better position. So the trick seems to be not to get emotionally involved. That is ultimately the goal of logic and reason, is to separate yourself from emotions. It does not mean that you are not supposed to express your emotions. It does not mean that you are supposed to suppress your emotions. It means that you are not supposed to allow your emotions to cloud your judgment. So, dating a chick because she's hot, knowing that she's toxic, knowing that she's irresponsible, knowing that she comes with a lot of baggage. But because you're overwhelmed with the endorphins and the dopamine from the abilities to get laid, your judgment is clouded. All of these red flags that you know exist, you're ignoring them because this is a consistent sex partner that's not good. But finding a woman that's got her shit together, one that's got a good head on her shoulders, one that values you as a person, not how much money you have in your pocket. Doesn't matter what she does for a living or how many kids she got, but if she is a good fit for your objectives, that would probably be a better fit than the hot chick that's willing to sleep with you, but's going to ruin your life. You're not going to be able to think logically if you're clouded by, if your emotional judgment is clouded and your logic and your reason is out the window. We call that nose wide open, right? We call it wrapped around the finger. We call it got you by the ear. But at the end of the day, it is that your judgment is clouded. It says, for example, you feel harassed by the police. Your reaction should not be to ask what types of donuts they like to eat. Right, because that's not the core of the situation. Ironically, while our First Amendment constitutional rights allows us to say whatever we want disrespectfully to law enforcement, the problem is that they have more control over your situation than you do. And disrespecting the authority because you can is not good for you. So when a police officer, especially one that's not fat, comes up to your car and then you make uh, comments and heckling about donuts and bacon, that's like using N words with minorities and making comments about fried chicken, watermelon, and Kool Aid. It's racial comments, and in this situation, it is objectifying comments that are used to devalue the other person in a situation where you're supposed to maintain a higher level of integrity. So if the officer is pulling you over for a bullshit reason, that is the time that you are supposed to be the most ethical person in that confrontation. If you're not an ethical person on a regular basis, when you get pulled over for a bullshit reason, you are supposed to be more ethical in that situation than any other situation. And reason being is because the foundation of your lawsuit is based on how you behave. If you are an asshole, while it's your constitutional right to do it, you are less likely to get as much as you would have gotten had you been the most ethical person in the situation. They cannot escalate the situation if you are not perceived as hostile. Making comments about donuts and bacon can be perceived as antagonistic and escalating the situation. You don't want to antagonize the person that has more authority over your situation. You don't want to belittle the person that has more authority over your situation. That's like cursing out your parents when you were younger. They would have knocked your teeth out your mouth. You'd have been picking yourself up off the floor. The goal is to articulate your concern. So if you feel harassed by a police officer, your first ability to identify exactly the true origin of why they're communicating with you. And if the resolution of their communication with you is supposed to be standard practice that they issue the citation and let me go. You have a limited quantity of time to do that. And once you exceed that threshold, you are unnecessarily detaining me, which is an unlawful practice. If you have the tools and resources to perform your duties, do it so that I can go on about my day. I shouldn't be here for an hour when this should only take 15 to 20 minutes, right? But if you're antagonizing the police officer, a 20-minute engagement could end up with a 2-hour discussion. A 20-minute engagement could end up with an 8-hour night in jail. A 20-minute engagement could lead to 2 years in court. But carrying yourself with a higher level of integrity can prevent being harassed by a police officer and ending up in more lifetime chaos than what you would have been had you just gotten a citation and went on about your day. So say you were one of those individuals where the police officer um, doesn't value you as a person and they decide to pull you over for your standard window tint. And then you just take the ticket and go to court and be like, okay, well, that's what he says, but here's the paperwork that shows that that standard window tint is less than what is required by law. So it is inside of the law, and based on statute here and statute here, I did nothing wrong. You don't have to fight with the cop. They're not going to vandalize your car. They're not going to tow your car and take you to jail. It's just like, all right, well, if that's what you say, like, for example, they say that you were speeding. Okay, I've got a dash cam that has my speed on a dash cam, so I wasn't speeding. I can show the judge the mileage on the computer, on the recording of how fast I was going when I got pulled over, which will show that I wasn't speeding. So I'm not going to argue. If you say I'm speeding, give me my ticket. We'll deal with it in court. That's it. Bring your radar gun, and I'm going to bring my video camera, and I'm going to show that I wasn't speeding. And if you're the kind of person that has one of those speedometers, on your front glass where it shows like a 3D digital speedometer on your glass so that your dash camera is recording your mileage on your car where it shows how fast you're going. If they say you're speeding, it says 45, you're in a 65-mile-an-hour zone and they're saying that you're speeding. It's like, all right, I could go to court and show them that I wasn't speeding. And that's when it's not an argument. It's like, well, whatever you say, I'll take that. You say, yeah, if the police are on a fishing expedition, you have to behave. Nevertheless, yeah, if you're in any situation where you're dealing with the lack of ethics, whether it's a police officer, whether it's a friend trying to psychologically or emotionally manipulate you into doing something you don't want to do, whether it's a girlfriend that's trying to psychologically or emotionally manipulate you into doing something you don't want to do, you have to maintain a higher level of integrity. You have to analyze the questions coming from the other person to determine what that's about. Why are they really asking these questions and how are you impacted by these questions? And if these questions are stemming from a malice intent, you can redirect the conversation back to the core topic. I've had situations where I've talked to people and I'll ask them a question. And instead of them answering the question, they will talk about something else as a response to my question. And I will explain to them clearly. I didn't ask you about that. I asked you about this. Can you answer my question? Now, if you're not going to answer my question, then I'm going to end the conversation here. And that keeps us on the main topic, not a straw man topic that's going to deal with bullshit, which I have to do during the show on a regular basis because we talk about this, that, and everything in between. If we ever go down a rabbit hole, I always redirect the conversation back to the main topic because the main topic today is supposed to be how you can get a better network for yourself of people of value. But we kind of went down a straw man scenario about police officers and stuff to that effect. The dynamic is this, that you as a person have to hold yourself with a higher level of integrity before you as a person can hold anyone else around you with that same level of integrity. So it doesn't matter what situation you're in. I actually had some guy that was arguing with me about bikers on social media because he swears up and down that the bikers are always innocent. And I'm like, bro, if you're going too fast and you can't stop, that's your fault that you end up in the crash. Doesn't matter what the law says about whether or not you can lane split. What matters is that if you cannot control your vehicle and your vehicle ends up colliding with another person's decisions, you messed up. It doesn't matter what the law says. You messed up. Most states that are no fault state has reasonable liability for both parties. In at fault states, you can prove that one person had more fault than the other person, and that person holds more weight in liability. But at the end of the day, you ended up in a situation where you were not defensive driving, where defensive driving is taught for people who grew up in cars before they got motorcycles, that you in a car are supposed to anticipate the vehicles around you. So you on a motorcycle is supposed to anticipate the decisions of the people around you. And therefore, if we already know that bikers are going to be hated by cars for lane splitting, if you know that the cars are too close together, if you know that somebody could swing a door open, you are not supposed to be zipping through as if you are entitled. You are supposed to be able to carry yourself in an observation that at any point in time, a car could swerve in front of you. At any point in time, a door could come open in front of you, and you should not be that close to another vehicle. If you're sandwiched between two vehicles where you don't have an ability to pivot, you are not driving the way you should be driving because you cannot defend yourself from somebody else's decision, which means that you're not supposed to be there. Doesn't matter if the law says that you can lane split. What matters is that should you break your leg or break your friend's leg if they're riding on the bike with you because you got into a crash because you decided to lane split instead of following with the flow of traffic. If you want to lane split, why not get off the bike and walk the bike between the traffic until the light turns green and then get on the bike and go? That's what I tell them. And they just sit there and they're like, oh, well, I didn't think. Is I do admit that it's funny on a live streaming police patrol show to ask them about the donuts, etc. Well, I mean, I guess, yeah, I know that some people find it funny to mess with the police officers, but one of the reasons why you end up having police officers that don't have good value is because you the majority of people don't show them the respect that they should have. But a small minority of police officers don't carry themselves with a level of integrity that makes all police officers looked at. So as soon as a police officer comes up, they are not identified by the integrity of the person. They are identified by the utility of the uniform. And since the uniform has been devalued by other people wearing that uniform, now you're in a position where nobody respects them. You get tired of being disrespected, and then you start coming to the car with a bad attitude, which is why I tell you, don't disrespect them. The TSA agents aren't getting paid to work. Don't disrespect the people at the TSA at check-in. You should give them extra respect now because they're working for free for 2 months so that you can get on your plane on time. So don't be a dick in the line. Have all your paperwork ready. Have your IDs in hand. Have all your baggage separated. Take your shoes and your belts and shit off at check-in. Don't bring anything that could cause them to have to pull you over and have to search you. Do what you know is right, not what you're entitled to do. Because even though you have levels of entitlement, you're in situations where your rights do not make sense here. Because you can walk into a bank with an AR-15 and a mask on and withdraw money because it's your constitutional right to do so. But that's also how people rob banks. So you shouldn't do that, not because you can't, but because it doesn't make sense to do it. That's the reason why it is what it is. So, step 3, you want to practice communication as a moral act. Shallow friendships are going to be built on shallow talk. Deep friendships are built on courageous conversations. In a philosophical context, communication is the arena where character is revealed. You see this in the movies and the animes and the shows and stuff to that effect, where the main character gives this backstory and talks about the things that he's overcome from his past that made him the person that he is today. The character building that you see in movies and in anime that makes you love the character, so that when that character gets sacrificed as plot development, you have an emotional impact of the detachment between you and that character because you valued the virtues of that person, of that character, where that character developed that through disclosure. Where had that person not disclosed that, you would have no value in that character. You know the difference between a main character that is sacrificed during the plot versus a cameo character that just passed through in the moment. For example, the red shirts on Star Trek, you don't know anything about the red shirts on Star Trek, but you know that the red shirt on Star Trek is going to be sacrificed to show everybody else the danger of the planet that they're on. The main characters, green shirts, blue shirts, yellow shirts, the main characters don't lose their lives. They might get injured, but they always make it back to the ship. But the red shirts, yeah, the red shirts get taken out, eaten in all the worst ways. Why? Because in order to show danger, some sacrifice has to be made, but the integrity of the background characters, the primary characters, those characters, you'll love those characters. You can name all of the main characters on Star Trek, but you can't name every red shirt that got taken out in Star Trek. You don't have any value in those individuals. A friendship of virtue requires honesty and courage in speech. And this means abandoning the passive aggressive, sarcastic, and avoidant styles that dominate so many male friendships. A lot of times when men are insecure about a conversation that they're in, they start cracking jokes. And it's not, insecurity is not bad. It's a level of vulnerability, but you don't feel comfortable in the conversation that you're in, so you start cracking some jokes. You know, you try to make light of the situation and make it a little bit more fun because you're used to only interacting with other people when it is entertaining. So when it becomes too serious for you, you deliberately try to bring entertainment into it in order to bring down the level of seriousness. But that also takes away the value of the conversation. So one of the things you have to learn is to speak and to listen with intent, not just out of cracking a joke or out of humor, out of being the class clown or the local jester. One of the most powerful tools for this dynamic is going to be that I statement instead of an accusatory you statement where you always bail on the plan. A person will take ownership of their own experiences, such as when plans change last minute, I feel like my time isn't being respected and I need a little more advance notice if possible. This reframes the conversation from an attack into a statement of one's own feelings and needs, where vulnerability is still accepted. It just has to be appropriately delivered. And this is going to invite collaboration rather than conflict. It also means practicing what someone might call radical candor, the ability to challenge a friend directly while showing care. A friendship of pleasure falls apart at the first sign of criticism. You don't like your friends telling you that you're fucking up. So you don't talk to them when you fuck up. If you fuck up a lot, your friends don't hear from you until you're not fucking up. Then when you come back, your friends are like, hey, where you been? I've been going through some things. And that's what you're going to leave it at. If they ask any further, I don't want to talk about it. And we move on to something else. A friendship of virtue is going to be strengthened by the intentional communication. A true friend doesn't enable bad habits, which is why when we talk about true friends, we don't talk about the ride or die friends. We don't talk about the down for whatever friends, because yes, you do want a friend that will not judge you negatively when you're in a negative situation. But you don't want the kind of friends that are only around when negative decisions are being made. Ride or die friends, it's a good slogan, but a ride or die friend is a friend that is, or not even a friend, it is a person that is going because if they don't go, they will die. So, and if they do go, they might die. So the chances of surviving is a lot higher if you go than what it is if you don't go, which means you don't have a choice to participate in this activity because you're dead if you do, and you might be dead if you don't. So you don't want a ride or die friend because that person is not there out of loyalty to you. It is out of self-preservation. That friend is not there for your benefit. It is out of self-preservation. And in the midst of self-preservation, they're obligated to show up, but they're not obligated to defend the position. That's going to be the person that's the bad shot. That's going to be the person that snitches on everybody else. That's going to be the person that fumbles and ends up getting caught first. That's going to be the person that doesn't make it out. That's going to be, you know what I mean? The kind of person that you can't rely on serious situations because they're actually not there to be an asset. They're there because they are obligated to be there. You don't want ride or die friends. This is how do you upgrade your 5 friends to hang around with? Well, that's what we're talking about today. That's exactly what we're talking about today. We're actually on the third step. The first step is you have to change the way you think about things. You have to identify what type of virtues and values you're going to have. And then you're going to think about the type of virtues and values you want to have around you. Then you have to change how you interact with individuals. But we're going to be talking about later today because we've got about 20 more pages left worth of information. So probably about another half hour of information that I'm going to be giving you guys. That's going to then go through the way to curate your friend group to remove those friends that don't benefit you, the ones that you have no value in, the ones that are only there out of utility or convenience, and start putting intentional friends into your local friend group of 5 that actually have virtuous values. Because they can still be friends of utility, they can still be friends of entertainment, but you actually have virtuous value in them initially. So you got to get rid of these bad habits. Certain things like saying, hey man, I care about you, and I've noticed that you've been drinking a lot more than usual. Is everything okay? Being able to hold your friends accountable with avoiding bad habits. These types of sentences requires immense courage because it risks awkwardness. but it is one of the truest acts of love that can be performed in a friendship, because it says I care more about your well-being than I do about my own comfort. When you're fucking up and I am able to tell you to get your shit together, and I'm not doing it in front of a crowd, I pull you off, the two of us, one-on-one conversation, and we having a serious heart-to-heart where I am genuinely concerned about your bad decisions, because they are going to negatively impact you, and I don't want to see that happen. You have to be able to come out of your comfort zone and risk it all for the people that you value. You're risking your integrity, your values, right? This is the kind of communication that forges unbreakable bonds, because I'm not just there after you fucked up your life. I'm there before you fucked up your life, trying to talk you out of fucking up your life so that I don't have to bail you out of fucking up your life, right? So these are going to be the three steps that are not quick fixes. And they are a lifelong practice that you have to change. This is the only work that leads to the reward behind what's being sought. Friendship is a virtue. They're not stumbled into, accidentally bumped into these people. They are built brick by brick, starting with the foundation of one's own character. This journey begins in the place of isolation, surrounded by ghosts. We saw how a modern world sells a broken model of connections, leaving many with hundreds of acquaintances, but not a single true ally. People have been building on sand, chasing the fleeting highs of pleasure and utility, only to find themselves empty down the line. But then a turn was made to the timeless wisdom of Aristotle's Stoics. A true north was found in the difference between flimsy bonds and the unbreakable friendship virtue. The path of getting out of isolation is learned, and it isn't about finding more people. It's about becoming a different kind of person. It is about manning up in a way where you're strengthening your own individual character, not hardening your heart or shutting off your emotions. But philosophy is useless if it remains an idea. It's going to demand some action. So this is where we end up with a direct challenge, a practical 4-week plan to begin auditing one circle and deliberately cultivating the connection that matters. So when you ask me, how do you upgrade your 5 friends to hang around with, this is going to be the 4-week man up circle plan that you're going to need. First week, you need to audit your friend group and see the matrix. The first task that you're going to have to start doing is dealing with brutal honesty. Get out a notebook, list the 10 to 15 people whom the most time and energy is spent during the week. Next, to each person's name, you want to categorize the type of friendship that you have with them based on Aristotle's framework. If it's utility, you place a U there. If it's pleasure, you place a P there. Or if it's virtue, you place a V there. Be ruthless. And pleasure doesn't have to be sex. Pleasure can be entertainment. If you only hang out with the guys to go for drinks, if you only hang out with the guys to go for bowling night, fishing night, trips, vacations, party time, if you only communicate with these people for entertainment, that's pleasure. The people that you only communicate with wisdom, like for example, if you listed me on your list, I would be virtue, because you only come to me for wisdom and knowledge. That's it. The value that you have in me is what you get from me, not from what I get from you, right? Utility, the homies that help you move, the ones that give you money when you don't have it, the ones that'll give you a ride to work because your car's broke down. Relationships out of utility. You might find yourself with an individual that has all 3 of these: utility, pleasure, and virtue. But you have to be ruthless about it. Don't categorize based on what one wishes a friend was. Don't identify them on what you hope for them to change into. You categorize them based off of what they are right now or who they have been so far in your relationship with them. For a friendship to be a V, it must be rooted in mutual respect for each other's character. Most of the list will likely be a U and a P, and that's going to be normal. The goal isn't to judge yourself or the other people, but to see clearly for the first time exactly who all is around you. The second week, and I mean, I've been doing this week by week because you might only do this on your one day off. You might actually have a very long list of people, and you might want to do more than 15. You might want to do the top 50 people that you associate with. But if you do the first 15 or 20 people that you spend the most time with, everybody else already doesn't matter. But when you start trying to upgrade the people of virtue, anything over the top 20, you want to be able to identify the next 45 or 50 people that only hold virtue. Because when you start promoting people in your friend group, those are going to be virtuous people. Okay. So week two is going to be investments that deepen the core. So you want to look at the list again. You want to identify one or two relationships that have the potential for virtue. Maybe it's a pleasure friend who has shown flashes of deep character. This week, the task is to deliberately invest with more depth. Reach out and schedule one on one conversations with no distractions. So, no sports on TV, no big groups, just a walk, a coffee, a quiet drink. You're not asking for any favors, you're not offering any help, you're just having a conversation that practices courage. You want to ask deeper questions. Instead of what's new, you want to try asking what's been challenging you lately. Share something real about your own journey. This is going to signal a desire to move that relationship into the deep end. Week three is going to be the expansion, the hunt for character. And this is going to be when you're going further down the list of people that you affiliate with. Now that the core is being invested in, it is time to expand with intention. The task is going to be to now join one new environment that is aligned with one of the values that you have or that you wish to obtain. This is not about finding a new bar. This is about finding a place where character is cultivated. So if you've got 50 to 75 people and the first 20 you've already analyzed, you might want to analyze the next 30. And out of that, if you find certain virtues, you want to figure out where these people dwell. Maybe meet you some new people, right? It's going to be places like a martial arts dojo or challenging fitness groups, volunteer organizations, a men's group at a community center, or a workshop for a skill to be mastered. In that environment, the only goal is to observe. You want to look for people who embody the virtues that you admire: discipline, humility, integrity, right? And then week four, the pruning and promotions, that purge phase, curating your circle. This is going to be the hardest and the most important week. You want to look back at the list from week one. Identify the one relationship that is the biggest drain on your energy and, and the most misaligned with the man that you want to become. The task is to prune. This doesn't require a dramatic confrontation. It means making a conscious decision to invest less energy. Politely decline invitations with that person. Don't initiate the text exchange. Create distance with intention to make room for healthier connections. It's not about ghosting the other person outright. It's limiting your conversations from full on explanations to short responses, from long winded text message streams to minimize communication responses and then ending the conversation verbally. All right, I'll talk to you later, or I've got to get back to work, or I'm about to get into X, Y, and Z project. I'll talk to you another time, right? So you're not ghosting the other person, but you are limiting the communication you have with them. You will find 90% of the people in your communication log, if you don't call them, they're not likely to call you. If you don't text them, they're not likely to text you. If you don't comment or interact with their feed on their social media platform, they're not likely to contact you to communicate about your interaction with their feed. If you don't notify them that you've got resources that they can benefit from, they're not likely to reach out to you just to see if you are available to release those resources to them. So it's not going to be that hard to distance yourself from someone that is a burden to your values. Because if they're only there out of the convenience of the relationship, when the relationship stops being convenient to them, they are not going to invest much effort into the relationship because the relationship is out of convenience. If you've got a work friend, that's a work friend because you cover all the shifts for the other guy. When you no longer need to pick up that overtime, they're no longer going to offer you extra shifts. That's all it takes. It's like, nah, man, I got plans this weekend. They're going to stop asking. That's all they were there for, is for you to cover their slack. This is going to work in relationships where if you don't have a virtuous relationship, your partner is only there for the money. If they only show up when you get paid and you always tell them you're not going to give them $1, that you don't have it, it's already dedicated to something else. If she's only there for the money that you were giving her, she's going to stop wanting to be there because you're not going to be giving her the money that she was expecting to get. You're still in a position where the relationship of utility, once it stops being convenient, is going to dissolve itself. And instead of you putting in all that extra effort to keep that person there, you let them go. Oh, you're not going to fight for me? I should not have to fight for what is not mine. Any relationship that I have, platonic or otherwise, that is individuals that values me, that is considered to be my friend group, my social group, my relationship, my family. I am not fighting to keep it. The only protection of it is to protect those people from external dangers. I am not fighting my partner to keep my partner in a relationship with me. That's not mine. That's not my value. So if I got a chick next to me and a dude walks up and asks her for a number, I am not going to try to stop that guy from getting a number. If she is willing to give him her number while I'm standing there, then she would have likely given him her number had I not been standing there, which means it's not mine. Because if it was mine, I would not have to say anything. She would be able to clearly articulate that she is not interested when I'm there, and she is not interested when I'm not there. So, am I fighting for her purity or am I fighting for her safety? She's not protecting her own purity. Why am I? Her safety is supposed to be my concern. Then identify one acquaintance, one of the extra people that are further down on your list of 75. Maybe someone that you met in the last 3 weeks, maybe someone that you've known for a while that you haven't actually done anything with to further the relationship. Someone who has shown a spark of the character that you value. The task is to promote that person from the bottom 75 to the top 10. Send them follow-up message. Send them a follow-up message. Let them know that, hey, it was good meeting up with you at whatever event we had met with, and then you want to tell them that I was impressed by whatever qualities that they showed. Then I'd be interested in hearing more about whatever work you got going on in the upcoming future. This is going to open the door for potential friendships of virtue to begin. If I saw you at a Comic Con and I admired the effort that you put into your costume, the dedication that you had of the character, which shows devotion to what you believe in, and I value that. If that's what it was, it's like, hey, maybe we can meet up another time and discuss that, see where it goes. The 4-week cycle isn't a one-time fix, because out of that 4 weeks, you removed at least one person that doesn't benefit you and added at least one person that does. Out of the 15 to 20 people on your list, you're likely to replace 15 of them and add at least 10, which means this cycle is going to happen at least 20 times in order for you to curate the top 20 people that are in your network, where you're promoting the top 5 people are all virtuous people. Right? This is going to be a new way of life for you. This audit should be run on one's life every few months, every month if possible. A person is no longer a passive passenger. They are an active curator of their circle. And this is the call to action. So don't just absorb this information and disregard it. Start the plan today. Open that notebook. Begin the audit. The path from loneliness to boredom is challenging. And when you're trying to build the brotherhood out of the loneliness and boredom, it requires a lot of effort. It requires more of a person than any shallow friendship ever will provide for you. But it will lead to a reward that is beyond measure, because any person of virtue, that also is a connection of utility. A person with higher integrity that has connections. A person with higher value, higher self-worth, higher honor, that networks into a higher social class. A person with high dedication and devotion that operates a network in a higher financial class. It's not always about getting people better than you. It's about getting people that you aspire with. If you want to change the way you do you, if you like the way I do me, then you would connect with me. That's how it would work. And if I'm connecting with other individuals, I am the node of the network. Then you want to network with more nodes. You want to network with more nodes of virtue, so that those nodes of virtue with their networks can network with you. Because if I have a 20-man network of virtuous people and you have a 20-man network of virtuous people, we have a network of 40 virtuous individuals. If I'm in your top 5 and you're in my top 5, then that means we need 3 more people to get this done correctly. Right? This is going to be a life of deep, meaningful, and unbreakable connections. A life where there is a brother to call on a Tuesday night, or just drop into my comment section and hit me up, where what you got going on, we can work through this. We can get you to the area of success that you are ascribing to be. Now, let's build a community of men on this journey right here. In the comment section, make sure that you share this with one man in your life who you believe has the potential to be a true friend of virtue. Share the whole show with him. Have him watch it. Then comment. Audit complete. When you finish your first week and go through that list, you don't have to share the names. Just hold yourself accountable. If we start the work together today, you will see better results tomorrow. So we stayed on par with our 2.5 hour journey that we normally do every week, most days out of the week. I'm going to tell you guys, tomorrow, Sunday, we're going to be doing questions and comments from the fans. We're going to try to start closer to on time, probably 10 to 15 minutes after the top of the hour. So we're going to be about 11:10 or 11:15. Because we're going to be just doing the questions and comments from the fans. So I want to make sure that you guys swing by and don't miss out what we got going on. Steven says the best thing I ever did was change myself for the better, and I gave up my old friend group who did not want to change. Spent time alone for a long time and am now around a whole new set of people. I'm not gonna lie, I did the same thing. I cut off a lot of people, and I did it with intent because I realized that the people that I had around me did more using me than benefiting me. And then I realized that once I started removing the people that cost me money, cost me time, and cost me effort, and only kept around me people that I actually benefit from in some way, shape, or form, while I did still keep one or two people of utility, those people I had some type of value in outside of uh, 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 the aspects of utility. And one of the ironies of it was one of the buddies that I actually still stay connected with. I let him know that 9 times out of 10, I'm only calling to help you. And if I wasn't calling to help you, I wouldn't call you because you hold no value to me outside of certain things. So we actually have only left the relationship of utility, and that relationship of utility demands respect. And if I don't experience that respect, I'm not going to communicate with you at all. And I had a specific friend that I put in place and let him know that the core value of what we've built over the past 15 years depends upon his ability to show improvement, because if he's not going to show improvement, I'm not going to continue to communicate. And I reminded him of other friends that I had held for 5 or 10 years, and I cut them off completely because I not only did I not benefit from them, I would get drugged down, and then they would try to gloat off of the fact that if I had to call for help because I had to bail them out, that they would be like, "Oh yeah, I helped you that one time, bro. I don't got time for that." If I stop wasting my resources and I stop spreading myself too thin, then I don't have to reach out for help, because we're all still financially challenged. None of us are making $1 million a year. So if I spend whatever I got going on helping all the people in my network, I don't have a dollar left over. If I got to ask somebody for an extra dollar, now all of a sudden I'm a charity case. Stop wasting my resources on the people around me and start expanding on my own personal growth and putting people around me that are willing to fix themselves in the same fashion and expanding on their personal growth. When we're helping each other with advice, when we're helping each other with connections for other opportunities, when we're investing in the same deal, not bailing each other out of financial strife, we both benefit from the same investment opportunity and we all build up together. It's not about just keeping the eviction notice off the door or keeping the utility company from cutting off the power. It's not about keeping the car from being repossessed. It's about not having the financial failures anymore. It's about not having the social failures anymore. It's about not having those toxic negative relationships anymore. I actually told my buddy one time, like, bro, you're 32 years old. You need to behave like an adult now. The childish games have got to stop. Because at me being 10 years older than you, the it's not working for me. It's not working for me, you know? And yeah, it requires, when you've got friends that don't want to grow up, you got friends that don't want to change, you honestly have to put your foot down and say, look, I can't do this anymore. And a lot of times you don't even do a whole speech of breakup with them. You tell yourself, I can't do this anymore. And then you end up with situations where you simply just tell your friends, I'm not available. And you keep stop being available and they'll stop calling. You keep stop being the party guy and they'll stop calling. You keep stop being the one that bails them out of financial strife and they'll stop calling. Every time they call you and ask you for money, you say you ain't got it, they'll stop calling. It takes you to change you first. And when you change and then you hold yourself to that dynamic and then you hold your network to the same dynamic, you will you will filter out the people that never fit there to begin with. If you go from being a person that's always late to being a person that's always on time, and you hold everybody else to being on time, the people that always come late gonna get tired of being held to that expectation if they don't plan on changing. They're either gonna start coming on time like you come on time, or they're gonna stop coming because they don't want to hear it. And once they realize they're late, they're like, yeah, I'm not even gonna go because he's gonna bitch about me being late because they have no interest in changing. You know, if you don't want to be broke, you got to stop making broke decisions. If you don't want to be broke, you have to encourage your friends to stop making broke decisions. They're not willing to stop making broke decisions, you will outgrow them. And when you outgrow them, you will no longer see value in communication with them. And when you no longer see value in communication with them, you will find yourself with a whole new circle, just like Steven said. And not only will you have a whole new circle, you will have a whole new, more valuable circle. And that whole new, more valuable circle will aid you in your ability to gain more success in life. And then you will see that as you continue to curate this list, as you continue to grow, as you continue to go from lower class to middle class or from middle class to upper middle class, you will find yourself going from hanging out with the guys at the club to book signings, to business meetings, to meet and greets with politicians. You will go from only talking about paying for somebody's back bills to investing in real estate, to investing in startup businesses, to investing in international scenarios, to getting direct phone calls from Elon Musk for certain projects. You will go from being nothing to being someone that everybody wants to connect with, to bring to something that the exclusive have knowledge about. There's the in crowd, and then there's everybody else. The people that are in the know are the people who only are told by people who value them. The people that nobody has value for doesn't know. So you want to be in a network of individuals that value you enough for them to put knowledge on your plate for little or nothing. And you want to be in the kind of network where that knowledge can be put on a plate of someone else for little or nothing, where all of you will turn profits together. Okay. Now, that's all I got for you guys for tonight. I got a lot more things I've got to curate. Oh, Steven, I put the information about the taxes into the membership, about setting up your business with the IRS. So I've got how to do it, and then I got the links to the IRS as to the ability to click those links and go and get the forms and stuff so that you can get everything set up. But how to do it and what to look for is in there. I don't have all the tax codes because I don't know what kind of business you're going to try to start up, but I did put the information into the membership so that you can have that. And hopefully throughout this week, some of the other concepts that I did cover with some step-by-step guides, I'm going to be creating those tonight and tomorrow and having those released throughout the membership. And then making sure that the last week of March, we're going to be doing our monthly dividend rotation strategy. We're going to be going over some of the stocks that's going to be in April and May, and then we're going to be putting up those lists for the rest of March going into April, so that you have those upcoming investment opportunities. And then yeah, we'll be able to keep the party going because the membership is continuously being flooded with information that is in depth, in addition to the standard conversations that we have on the show. So what I might do is take this step-by-step process and turn it into a list and put it into the membership as well, so that you can learn how to improve yourself with this. And also, now that I think about it, the three um, shows that I did about how to dress, how to improve your attire, I may culminate that into a big list of how to change your attire and then upgrade your outfits over the course of a 70-day or 365-day plan, which allows for you guys to improve your wardrobe and then remember those lists. So make sure that you guys, whenever y'all have time, go back and double check that membership because it's updating every week, if not every day, with different information that you guys can benefit from that helps you guys think about other ways to go about doing things. I also put that NACA mortgage company information into the membership as well, so that you can go to the website and find out from them if there's one near you, where you can follow up with them about things to do and how to go about the approach of acquiring housing in a cheaper format. So it really there's a lot of things that I've been just kind of throwing it in there and giving you guys the heads up on it to help y'all with what y'all are supposed to be doing. I think this Tuesday we're going to be talking about annuities and mutualities, and I may be putting up some list about the mutualities and the annuities in there in the membership as well. I know that I have the health savings accounts and the high interest savings accounts in the membership to help you guys with that. Treasury bonds, I should be putting that information in there, and also the Trump account, how to get, if anybody who's having kids in between 25 and 28, I'm going to be putting that information in there with the Trump accounts so that you guys know where to go to reach out and get more details about those Trump accounts for your kids. So uh, first, I'm going to tell you guys, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. And fellas, I got to tell y'all all the way across the board, I'm giving y'all this information to help y'all become higher value men. Not just to build your finances, but also to change your decision-making skills. Because ultimately, you have to find the things in your life that you can control, the things that you don't like, change those things, and you will start seeing a better life. That gives you the capabilities and the energy to navigate around the things in your life that you cannot control, right? And then, ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can make yourselves higher value women. But you have to prioritize your 20-year plan. Where do you want to be at in 20 years? Reverse engineer that process and start today by putting forth the extra effort in changing your life so that you can start seeing yourself meet those goals. If you keep your eyes and ears open, you will start finding individuals with the same mentality as you, with the same drive and ambition as you, and you can curate that person into your lifestyle. How you doing, Daniel? Good to see you. We're on our way out today. We've been here for 2.5 hours. You should have came here 3 hours ago. You would have been at the top of the show. But ladies, yeah, when you find an individual that matches with your goals, you're able to reach those goals just that much faster. I've told you guys plenty of times about how two people with $30,000 to $40,000 a year incomes can make themselves a millionaire inside of 10 years. One person can do it inside of 20 to 25, but two people can do it inside of 10 to 15. If you guys prioritize long-term success over short-term entertainment and short-term gains, instead of dealing with lifestyle creep and always living paycheck to paycheck, 40 years of being broke, you can find yourself living the good life after 10 to 20 years. All it takes is that you stop wasting money on the things that you don't need to spend your money on. And then you will find yourself in an area of success that you never thought possible. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Andrew, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
respects my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.